I'm talking about Newcastle United's Sandro Tonali, who we hear is set to play for Newcastle against Crystal Palace on Saturday, despite facing a possible 12-month ban from football for his part in the Italian betting scandal. This is headline news everywhere, Simon, and it seems to be developing all the time. No doubt someone known to Tonali, Nicolo Fagioli, the Juventus midfielder, has been banned from playing for 7 months over breaches of betting rules. Now, what's the situation at Newcastle, Simon? Head coach Eddie Howe said that they were delighted but surprised at being able to strike a deal for Milan's 23-year-old captain, Tonali, when they signed him in the summer. And I think that choice of words, delighted to get him in the summer, but maybe somewhat surprised. What do you think has gone on here, Simon? Do you feel that the wool was pulled over Newcastle United's eyes when they signed this player? Because in the background, it was known in Italy that Tonali, sooner or later, and now sooner, would run into this betting scandal problem. And if so, are there grounds for compensation for Newcastle?
Was it known at the time? I mean, we are now becoming aware, as a result of the agent's comments, that there was a concern about gambling addiction. But is that as a result? Because we often find, and I know I said this yesterday, and I know that people don't like it. It seems to me that people find addictions very quickly when they're caught doing something. They have a consequence as a result of it, and that is not in any shape or form to diminish addiction or to diminish people that suffer from it. Because sometimes people that don't suffer from it and use it as a smokescreen are actually diminishing those that do. So I wonder about the timing of the information to suggest that somehow there's been collusion. Now, if an agent did know about this particular situation, is it his gift? Is it his responsibility? Is it his obligation? Did he elicit, solicit and coerce Newcastle into buying a player? No, they went in for a player that was available and they bought him. So is it the agent's responsibility? Has he profited from it? Of course he has. Would he in the real world have advanced a situation that maybe the player told him was under control? Maybe the player told, my problems are in the past. We'll never know that particular conversation because it'll never see the light of day unless there's some reason for seeing it, and that will come from the player's side. I think this is a very, very tricky area. We were debating about it yesterday, about the level of due diligence that can and should be done on players. And when you're moving into this area, this new frontier. Once upon a time, it was, when you bought players a long time ago, you often bought them on spec and you bought them on videos, and you used to go raving mad as an owner about the lack of due diligence that managers and scouts did. Yeah. Now we move into the territory of people really wanting to know the culture and the behaviour patterns and what's going on in people's personal lives, where they're settled in a relationship, how they live their lives. All of that should be part of the thinking anyway, because psychologically and psychosomatically what players do is influenced by their mindset. But this area...
Did you do due diligence in this area when you signed players at Palace?
No. Well, no, because the whole landscape has changed. The culture.
But did you never say to an agent, "Is this fella got a problem that I'm going to find out about"?
No, not really, because I tried to keep my agents at arm's length. What you did, and of course we've got to take a look at the history of sports and the culture, specifically of football. This was a sport that embraced this mentality. This was a sport that thought it was funny watching Harry Redknapp with his feet up on a table reading the Racing Post, and thought it was great that footballers spent most of their time.
That's a long time ago, Simon.
But I'm saying to you,
and I'm not sure Harry did that.
But I'm saying, well, I saw him. But saying the ideal that we are in a situation now where the sport, it was a stable diet. It wasn't so long ago that footballers had too much free time, so they were either playing swing at a golf club or in a betting shop. Now betting has changed. You're right. The betting landscape has changed. But has the culture changed? We still have this inherent bubble that footballers live in, where they can do no wrong and do what they want, when they want, how they want, and there's always excuses for it. So this culture is still prevalent. Now in the digital age, because it's so much more accessible, as a result of the betting community changing the way it brings its product to market, it becomes a different problem, which means that football has to pivot and adapt and go, right, how far can we go into the behavioural patterns of somebody? Yeah. What data can we ascertain? Because this has all come out. This guy hasn't been caught for actually what they've caught him doing. They've caught him doing it as a result of the poison tree, which was the first player that did it, and all the information's flowed from his cell phone and what he's done and what he hasn't done.
If you're at Newcastle, though, and you've spent 50 million plus on this player, are you not asking serious questions now to the agent to Milan and whoever else you can find.
Well, you're going to start
about,
internally.
You didn't tell me about this.
Well, you're going to
last
start
history.
internally, aren't you? If you're at Newcastle, stuff flows downhill, doesn't it? You're going to be going down to the chief scout or the director of football. Go, hello. What did we do here in this area? And then it's going to flow down to the scouts, and then it's going to flow down to the manager in terms of the manager's conversation. Did we get any indication of it? And then it'll deviate to how can we find some sort of mechanism to reclaim the problem that we may have. The tragedy of it is why you could make this argument about Ivan Toney and his signature, because ultimately the challenges that he's got are historic, and Brentford are the victims of it.
Well, a few questions are needing to be asked at this particular time in the proceedings. One of them being, do the FA need to open their own investigation into a player that his agent admits has a gambling addiction and has been playing in the Premier League for 3 months?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.